I always
Okay.
get nervous before these things.
I mean, only
I'll be good. I'll talk good, but at the beginning, I'm like, oh shit.
like.
So on fire, hey.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for yet another installment of Imprint. Today, we're here to talk about Thomas and the print that he's leaving on his world. But first, let's learn more about Thomas and the world in which he lives. So, Thomas, can you just share us a little bit about where you're from, where you live, and the print that you're leaving on the world? You can just go general for now, then we'll get into the details later.
Got you, got you. Um, where am I from? I am from Ghana, West Africa. Where do I live? I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And what am I? I am an African who is very creative.
Okay.
Uh, for me, like the imprint that I want to leave is like how, like, okay, to start the story, I was born here. But as I tell everyone, like my parents raised me like I was in a boarding school back home. So everything is very traditional. There's order and like there's a particular way for everything. And because of that, it's a very, I guess, conservative lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very conservative lifestyle, but at the same time, it's like implemented certain elements of structure that like it kind of breathes throughout my life,
Mm.
and like it helps me to view the world in a different way. That I guess it's interesting to people. I don't know what else to say.
You said it helps you view the world in a way in which is interesting to people.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll dig into that. But I actually, can you tell everyone the name of the clothing line you started, and like if you can share kind of like your motivating factor behind starting it. So the beginning story.
All right. So, story that she's asking about is the beginnings of Karmalifee.
Yes.
Karmalifee is an entity that I created with my friends. It's actually a blog, and it started out as a blog. And as we started to do the blog, like we're like, hey, we can make our own merchandise. And as we made our own merchandise, it was like, hey, we can start a clothing line. And if you listen to how I'm saying that, there wasn't really much order or a plan set to that. So as we were creating it, it's like we're actually creating two completely separate things.
Mm.
And what they were was a creative community.
Mm.
So in the very early beginnings of Karma one of the mottos we came up with was unify and rise.
Mm.
So for how we would view the world or how we would talk about what we're doing, honestly, we didn't really want to talk about what we were doing. We wanted to talk about like the creativity that we see around us. So if I meet you and I'm getting all sorts of notifications, sorry. Can you hear all that?
No, I cannot.
Oh, so it's only to me. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're
Um,
good.
so yeah, it's our view of the creativity around us, and it'll be like I'll meet this person. She makes great handbags. I'm not necessarily a handbag person, but I'm sure the women around me would love to see this work. So as I would go to events and I would meet these different people, I'd approach everybody humbly and say, "Hey, I think your stuff is cool. I'd like to write about you." And I realized early on that nobody does that. And, and like for me, in my beginnings, I didn't really feel like I had too much artistic ability.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I see somebody who does poetry or is a musician or is a creative of some sort, I'm like, yo, this is really cool. I'd like to share it with the world.
Yeah.
So that like raw, authentic place where it came from. So as I kept doing it and then I go to like this the same event, and I'd be like, okay, so who started this? Walk up to the person, say thank you, and be like, yeah, I'd love to know about your next event.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those two things, I would get to know everybody at the event and the person who created it.
Yeah.
So, um, anyways, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but yeah. So it started off as a blog. Really, what it was as at its core was a community, and as we grew and we're starting to figure out the clothing line thing, and we're also realizing that we had a really beautiful platform. We would get into things like we had our own radio show, and for me, um, walking up to someone and saying, "Hey, I'd like to write about you," it was always good. But saying, "Can you come on our radio show and talk about the happenings in your life
Mm-hmm.
for an hour?" It really gave the conversation a new dimension. So when we started our radio show and how we chose to attack the creative community, it was welcomed in a beautiful way, and it really got kind of made the bigger picture of we were a community all along, like the apparent to us. So like now that's kind of the main direction and where the brand is going.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I want to ask you a question real quick because
okay.
you see, so you talked about starting the blog, you talked about starting the clothing line, you talked about starting the radio extension, but we were talking previously before, and I think that's the challenge for a lot of people. It's like, first of all, where do you get the confidence or belief in yourself to start something? Because at least now in today's age, I'm kind of critical of a lot of things that I see because I think that we're oversaturated with things that are not to their best ability. I'll just say it like that. They're not as good as they can be. There's like oversaturation. Somebody will see an idea, someone do something well, and they're like, "Oh, I want to do that." And
Right.
tomorrow they're doing it. So it's either that people are doing things off the cuff poorly, or that they're questioning themselves so much that they never even take the
Do it
steps to
at
start.
all.
Yeah. So you talked about starting three amazing things. What ticked in your brain? Like, what made you think that you could even do it? And then once you made that decision, what were some of the planning steps that you took in order to do it well?
Um, so being completely honest,
Do
I
that.
don't
Be honest.
I don't really think I have the confidence to do that.
Oh,
It
okay.
just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Like the beauty of starting that company, or the beauty of starting this endeavor with the teammates that I had started with was like we started it as three lazy dudes on the couch. Like literally, we're all working in the mall, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And as we grew into it, like it really like we became very comfortable with one another.
Mhm.
So I'm going to this speaking engagement and I'm really nervous. As soon as I get nervous and I put the mic down, my business partner knows to pick it up.
Mhm.
So in everybody else's eyes, that was planned. Or in everybody else's eyes, I don't seem as nervous because, they're joking me or stuff or something like that.
Mhm.
So, but anyways, where I'm going with that is like confidence and like co- confidence. It's like a burden, but because think about the question that you asked, like, how did you have the confidence to start those things? At the end of the day, what most people don't do is literally just start, and then at the same time be conscious of the journey.
Mhm.
So you can start off terribly, but
Mhm.
you can also improve. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? Sometimes when you get in the middle of one of these things, you get so caught up in it, like, yo, I'm terrible at this, and then I
Right.
have to stop. As opposed to like, okay, I interviewed Beulah. What did you think of this interview?
Mhm.
Then I take what you said and I work on it.
Mhm.
So for us in our early stages, the things that we would do, we listen to the feedback and move forward with it. Or if, like right now, we don't do that radio show anymore because we didn't really feel like what we were doing at was that progressive because
Mhm.
we're coming up with ideas and they weren't really taking them. And it's like we just had to move on. And it's like that's another thing. You have to know when to move on. Like I'd love to bring that back, but right now it's something that's in the past.
Mm.
But like for me, anybody who comes to me and wants to start an endeavor, my thing is to just tell them to go do it because you have to be you have to be okay with the mistakes that you make, and at the same time, like you have to be okay with the mistakes you make, and you have to be able to take them on and grow from them.
So I actually think that's a great pathway to talk about the next question that I have for you. What are some of the major setbacks that you experienced early on? Try to be as honest as possible. Return back to that place in which you're kind of like, damn, should I really be doing this?
Okay,
Because we've all had them. You've all had them.
so honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Karmalifee never had a business plan.
Mm.
So that's where, like, I said three dope things, but how we're going to execute them wasn't really all the way thought out.
Mm.
Like, now I think out everything, so it's different. That's what experience has taught me. But at those particular times, like, okay, we are Karmalifee a blog, then we became Karmalifee the clothing line. How exactly are we touching everybody? Okay, we're a social brand. That's why this radio show makes the sense. Now, like, it's pretty much a creative community. Like, that's literally what it is, and that's what it was the whole time. But we didn't understand it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hold on, let me make sure I answer the question. Remind me what the question is again.
Just some like major setbacks. So maybe like even beyond not having a business plan, but you have something, right?
Yeah.
But the journey or the path isn't smooth. There's some bumps. So even without like dismissing the fact that you didn't have a business plan, what are some things that happened to you, your partners, that was kind of like, what's going on?
All right, so one of my favorite points to make about that type of question is that um, a lot of times when you are creating something and you're pretty good at it,
Uh huh.
it's like the feedback, like, okay, I make these T-shirts and you love my T-shirts, and you tend to tell me like, yo, everything I come out with is cool. Like, it gets to a point where it's like everybody around you is a yes man, and you can't make up any bad ideas.
Yeah.
Being all the way completely honest, like you've asked me to be, like there was a product that we made way back in the day where we got these patches from online or whatever. They were supposed to go in our merchandise, and we bought like hats from like Walmart, and we like glued them, like literally hand glued them. No real manufacturing or anything to them, and people were actually trying to buy it. But honestly speaking, that's the worst product we ever came up with, and I will
Yeah.
never do that again. You see what I'm saying? But in that same realm, like this is the life of somebody who's an innovator. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To everybody else, everything everything you do is gold. When in all actuality, that there's no such thing. But
Right.
when that's what you're being told, it's like it becomes intoxicating.
Mm.
And when it becomes intoxicating, I use that word because it's not real. Like the difference between like Steph Curry and LeBron is LeBron thinks he's the best in the world, like he said. Steph Curry is like battling Steph Curry in his mind.
Yeah.
So like right now he's made what almost 400 threes in a season.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Johnson made 325 over the course of his career, and he's about to be that in one season.
Mm-hmm.
So when you battle against yourself, like nobody can see you and nobody can beat you because you're only going against yourself.
But isn't battling yourself, doesn't that become exhausting? Because I know that there are people that push and push and push and push, and it's almost like they're never happy with what they
Right.
produce. So, I mean, just as someone who's expressed that, I actually feel like I'm kind of that way.
Right.
Sometimes, and not gonna lie, it becomes taxing because it's like, no matter what I do, I always want to be better. I can see the
There's
bright
always
side of
another
that,
level.
but yeah, yeah, and I know it pushes you towards greatness. But like, if we're talking honestly, which is what I want these conversations to be, what does this downside of doing that look like, feel like? What is that like?
I mean, it's like you said. It's like it's an empty feeling. Like, yo, is everything I'm doing right? Is everything I'm doing wrong? Like you battle all these thoughts of how how deep especially now in this age of instant gratification, is it getting as much exposure as it's supposed to,
Right.
or is it is my work really out there like I think it is?
Mm-hmm.
When honestly, like there's a lot of silent people who are watching you who are rooting for you.
Yeah, it's true.
At some given point, they may ask you for help or feedback or
Right.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like to me, that innovator point that I made is like really one of the biggest challenges because like and to me like the best way to understand it or to get around it is like have a balance. And maybe that's something you have to do with a lot of self work and take time to yourself to really think about things. But you have to have a balance in it. Like you do have to go for the challenges. I mean, you do have to go to improve the challenges and go for the next level. But you also have to be like okay with what you've done.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
if I look back and I'm like, yo, I failed at like 5 projects, then I'm not good. But if I say I have an experience from this, it's like completely different.
Yeah. You know, something that's interesting that a lot of like innovators, well, maybe creatives do, I don't know. Entrepreneurs don't talk about is self-care in regards to business, right? Because like I think innovators, maybe more so entrepreneurs than innovators, but they experience a lot of rejection and that
Hmm.
can take a toll on you. But there is not a lot of conversation about what to do with rejection and like what you were saying, how to take an experience from an L instead of just taking that L and then branding
Right.
yourself, your resume, or whatever with that L. So that's a really interesting piece. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it really is. Like at the end of the day, the more self care you give yourself, the further you can go. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you better understand yourself and how to interact with the world around you.
What's some of the self care that you give yourself?
Wasn't ready to release this gem out to the world, but I guess
Uh-oh.
I have to. Um, I joke around with a lot of people, and I like say like for example, if I'm talking to you, I would say like, "Yo, who's your inner beast?"
Uh-huh.
And like for me, my inner beast is LeBron James,
Okay.
right? And yeah, it's kind of crazy for me to say, but it doesn't have to make sense to anybody but me.
It doesn't. Yep.
So the reason why I say LeBron James is because like LeBron isn't from New York and he's not from LA, but when he came back to Cleveland, he brought millions home.
Mm.
So I went to school at VCU in Richmond, and I love to go to DC, but I actually live in Fredericksburg. So if I want to seize control in those areas and do damage and do work, I can if I empower myself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I mean that's one thing.
No, it makes sense. I get it.
That's one thing. Another one would be um, I try to isolate myself
Mhm.
because I'm a people person. Like I mean that in the most raw and authentic way. Like my day job is that I'm a nurse aide, and essentially I'm around old people all day.
Mm.
And but I make it my thing to be happy at that job. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
And I come up with nicknames for all my residents and different little silly stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've taught an old Caucasian Marine like how to give dap before, and I thought it was the greatest thing because of his reaction.
Oh my goodness.
But at the end of the day, I'm just happy about the world around me.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to my point,
Mm.
I try to isolate myself because I'm around people all day. I'm around people at work. I'm around people, in my I guess what do they call it? And what I moonlight as like I'm trying to be a brand consultant and start a creative agency like I told you.
Mhm.
And in essence, I'm always going to be around people, so I have to have my peace that I sit with.
Right. Right.
So like I'm driving to DC, I generally drive with no music.
Mm.
So I can have peace with my thoughts, concentrate on I'm going to this big event. how am I going to attack this, and this? Or I have this idea that I'm going to work on. How am I going to execute it, and who am I going to reach out to? Like, for me, that time of isolation has been one of the more important things because it allows me to, battle the thoughts within, but in a peaceful way. Like, I try my best in those times not to think of things negative. I try to think of things positive and move forward.
Right.
So yeah, those are my two gems.
Ask me who my inner beast is.
Yes, who's your inner beast?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
That was a joke. I'm kidding. That was
Nice.
a joke. I do have a question.
Why is Steph Curry? You don't get to ask all the questions.
What did you say?
I was joking. I said, "Why is it Steph Curry?" Well, you don't get to ask all the questions.
I only said that because you compared Steph and LeBron earlier.
Okay.
So, and Steph is better than LeBron. So,
exactly.
I said my inner beast is better than your inner beast. Clearly, that was a joke.
Now I see what you did.
No, let's not because I'm not a fan of LeBron. We can talk about that offline.
Okay.
But I get it. So actually, just in closing, I have two more questions for you. The first one being, what are your hopes for Karmalifee? What are your hopes for yourself? Like 3, 5, 10 years from now, what would make you say, I made it? I did what I wanted to do. We had the impact that I wanted. What would that look like? Is that a big question? I'm sorry.
Is it a big question? Nah, it's
All right,
not
good.
too big a question because, what I'm saying, if you have a business, if you have goals and dreams, there's no question that's too big for you to at least get a handle on.
Good.
So I don't know why I'm looking into the sky instead of at the camera, but what would tell me I've made it? Honestly, in my heart, I feel like I already have.
Okay.
The reason why I say it like that is, like, I haven't accomplished, certain basic goals in life that I may have wanted to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling, because I'm a people person, the feeling of, empowerment, or the feeling of, you know, gratefulness. Like, for example, if you have an accomplishment and it's like you graduate or you get a crazy feature, I'm happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And like nothing can take that away. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not me being fake. It's me being like, yo, a fellow African has achieved something.
Yeah.
And I say like I already feel like I'm successful because I've come up with certain ideas and I presented it to people, and like I've made a grown man cry before. I'm not gonna name the person, but it's like it made a grown man cry with joy. Like I gave him an opportunity that he didn't even know anybody was looking for. He didn't know anybody was looking for him to be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like to give people that sort of feeling with these random ideas that are in my head. Then yeah, I'm a success.
Can you real quick? Can you explain the name Karmalifee again? I don't know.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking this. I almost forgot.
Yes.
The name Karmalifee is actually an acronym,
Oh.
and it's Kicks Arts Rags Music Alive. And
Kicks Arts Rags Music and what?
Alive.
Oh, okay.
So the alive means doing things to make your soul live, and
Right.
that's like following your dreams.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's not really like having to. I mean, it kind of does have the do unto others and it'll come back to you type of feel to it, and karma in it. But yeah, that's really what the acronym means.
Okay.
And it comes from I can't take credit for that acronym. That's definitely my former business partner's idea.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I forgot what I was trying to say.
I'm so sorry. I was just curious about the name because we never really like delved into that. So
yeah.
But you were talking about inner joy and making a grown man cry with joy because you gave him the opportunity to speak upon something that he didn't have a platform to do before.
Yeah, and like that feeling is better. is better or just as good as when I make an achievement.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like in life, if you can't be happy for your fellow human being, like what's wrong with you? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't be compassionate for your fellow human being. What's wrong with you?
I mean, to be honest, you would be asking a lot of people what's wrong with them because what I
I mean,
see,
I know,
yeah,
but that's their problem.
it sure is. Thomas, it sure is. So, I mean, that actually leads us to my next question. It's a great segue. So what's your advice to people that want to start their own mark and maybe they lack the confidence, maybe they lack the resources, maybe they lack whatever XYZ might be? What do you want to tell them? Someone that's looking at Karmalifee saying, wow, this is really dope. Thomas is really dope. I want to be him. I want to meet him. What do you want to say to them?
Number one, don't try to be me
All right.
because you have to be better than me. That's why I'm glad she picked Steph Curry.
Of course.
Um, Honestly, because we started Karma Life the way we did, I would say that you have to. I mean, if you have these dreams and stuff like that, I mean, yeah, you can research it, but there's no real amount of research that can give you life experience. So if you want to do something, just go do it.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone who knows it better than you, someone who does it better than you, who you can ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
So with me and all the stuff that I do, I'm an open book on a lot of these topics because at one point I wasn't, and I'm sharing with the next person so they can do well. You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, nothing beats life experience. I mean, you don't necessarily want to handle owning a business like I did, but but at the end of the day, it made a man out of me, and
Yeah.
it helped me in different ways. But yeah, like research and then go execute.
Mm.
That's it for me.
Okay. All right. Well, Thomas, thank you for sharing your print with me and for the people that are going to view this. You seem to have like a really genuine, compassionate soul, and that's nice to come across every once in a while because there's just so many dead people walking around out there. So thank you for that.
Yes, definitely.
Could you share your social media accounts just in case anyone's not watching this on the YouTube page or can't see the description for whatever reason?
Got you. I really wish they were more cohesive, but so because I have to like mention like five, 3 or 4 different ones. Um, Twitter is Tommy Pickles, and obviously that's from the Rugrats. But it's spelled TOMMY underscore PICKLZ. Um, Instagram is Thomas the Great. Tumblr is Thomas the Great. Um, and remember that name because it's gonna do damage later.
Amen.
Uh, I'm trying to think of what other social media. Facebook is Thomas Osam Jr. I don't really care if you find me or follow me. Like
Facebook is
it is
Thomas
what.
the same Junior.
No, Thomas Osam
Oh,
Jr.
okay, okay.
Yeah. I don't really care if you follow me because I'm post what I post because it's my page.
Okay. Yes. Say that.
um,
Say that.
that's the same. Karmalifee is Karmalifee. Karmalifee is actually spelled differently. It's Karma, obviously, but Lifee, and it's that way on Facebook and Instagram and the website and yeah, I believe that's all of them.
Thank you. And I forgot to ask you to do this prior, but I like to end these on a wave. So when I say that concludes this installment of Imprint, can you wave?
Okay,
And I'm
gotcha.
probably not going to edit this part out, but it's okay. Who cares? All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We got to learn about Thomas and his mark. I will edit that part out. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's okay.
I just remember those
That's what
hats, and I was
that's
like, "This is really dope."
that's what it was for so long
Uh
that
huh.
like I have to really break it down for people to get it.
Yeah,
Like that's why I stress the community part so much
I
because
feel you. Okay.
yeah,
Well, I will. I'll edit that part out. Okay.
that's okay.
Bring it back. Okay. And that concludes this installment of Imprint.
Wow.
Nami, I say, hey, boy, Nami,